Top 30 Favorite Movies Ever. Number 1. 30 to 21. Yes folks, it's a top 30 list. I did this for Doctor Who stories a couple of years back, and that one's already wildly out of date because that's the way these things go when you're a changeable SOB like me. But so what, because now I'm doing it for all movies ever anyway, as I can't think of anything else to do today, to be perfectly honest. Let me be clear. This is not a critic's list. This is not your list. It's not your mum's either. It's my list, and it's not the list of movies I think are most likely to win Oscars, because frankly I don't give two shits for that kind of ridiculous preening cuntery. This is just my top 30 list of the movies I enjoy the most, whether they're going to win any critics awards or not. And no, Pulp Fiction's not on it. Neither is The Dark Knight. Sorry. And yes, most of these are probably from before some of you were even born. You fucking cunts. 30. Debs. A no doubt controversial choice that immediately destroys any and all credibility I may ever have had as a film reviewer, but you know what? I dinna give zero fucks. I fucking love this ridiculous, sexy and sweet spice spoof cum lesbian flick, one of the most shamelessly entertaining, fun and rewatchable films of the 2000s, not a decade exactly known for being full of those. Full of something maybe. Sarah Foster and Jordana Brewster are very likable and sexy as all hell as the nice girl bad girl couple, and it's all very silly and watchable. Now that's what I call a good time. 29. Gremlins. One of the premiere films of my childhood, Gremlins has gone down on this list a little in recent years, but there was just no way I could ever leave it off entirely. Gremlins just seems to embody the 80s, my childhood, and the wonderful creative time that was all round. There is just still something so magical about this time, and this movie seems almost emblematic of that in a way that just makes me all gooey inside. Phoebe Cates was fucking hot too. There, I said it. 28. Link. Sexy young Elizabeth Shrew goes all badass against a murderous orangutan who's been getting a bit fresh with her. And lots of other people. Link is an underrated tongue-in-cheek 80s horror gem that even has a gem of a part for DC Tosh lines from the bill. You can't say fairer than that. 27. The Fog. John Carpenter's early 80s ghost story is a slow burn eerie classic that has a fantastically creepy atmosphere, an excellent cast, and, for Doctor Who fans watching this channel, does anyone else, let's face it, is also clearly an inspiration on the 7th Doctor classic The Curse of Fenric. If that don't make you run out and watch it, I don't know what will. 26. A View to a Kill. Roger Moore's last outing as James Bond is the end of an era in more ways than one, but is also one of his best as he goes up against loony old Christopher Walken. Although I don't mind Living Daylight and think License to Kill is actually a great 80s action thriller, if a bit of an unlikely Bond movie, I don't think the series has ever been this good or this much fun, or quite frankly ever the same again. A View to a Kill has great support from Grace Jones and lovable old John Steed himself, Patrick Macnee. Tons of action and traditional Moore-era Bond humor make this a first-class winner in my book. 25. 10 Things I Hate About You. Back in the days of yore, in a time when Hollywood comedies were actually funny and witty and clever rather than just crass and vulgar to make up for a complete lack of intelligence, they made a sort of thin reimagining of Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew with Heath Ledger, Julius Stiles, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the lovely Larissa Oleynik. And yay, it was funny and witty and clever and sweet, in a way that, with all the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, just does not seem to get made anymore. Or to put it another way, I laugh my fucking ass off at this every time. Classic in my book. 24. Warlock. Julian Sands has nasty magical powers in this wickedly entertaining late 80s comedy horror co-starring British legend Richard E. Grant as a fiery witch hunter. Warlock is an absolute riot from start to finish and deserves more appreciation than it gets. It has kind of a similar theme to the H.G. Wells' Jack the Ripper flick time after time, but is way superior in my opinion. 23. For Your Eyes Only. Yes, it's another James Bond film, and yes, it's another one with Roger Moore in it, because that's the way I roll, folks, and because Roger remains the greatest Bond there ever was or ever will be, and no one will ever touch him, least of all for that fucking badly miscast Daniel Craig and his fucking insomnia cure excuses for motion pictures. For Your Eyes Only is a classic action film with my all-time favorite Bond girl, the sexy as fuck Carol Bouquet, Uncle Rog on top form, and a fucking hilarious tag scene that really pisses off the Misery-Gts crowd. Fuck them, I say. 22. Mars Attacks. Tim Burton's mid-90s spoof of alien invasion movies, hilariously coming out the same year as Independence Day, Mars Attacks has aged very well indeed as a glorious spoof of the genre and disaster movies in general, with a fabulous all-star cast and a truly perverse sense of humor. No wonder I like it so much. 21. A Nightmare on Elm Street. It says a lot about the 1980s that one of its biggest pop culture icons was a child murderer. They even made action figures of him for kids. Can you imagine that happening in today's PC Nazi social media outrage lynch mob society? No, me neither. Elm Street sees a child murderer murdered by the parents of the kids he murdered coming back in other kids' dreams to murder them too. Lovely. Most of the sequels were shite, but the original A Nightmare on Elm Street remains a timeless classic frightener and remains seared in my memory for practically traumatizing me when my mum and dad let me watch it as a kid. Thanks, mum and dad. Great parenting there. I'm fucking suing. To be continued.